this was always a case that we were going to die in the internet for two reasons. One was we were going to run out of V4 addresses and the internet would die the next day. Well, that hasn't happened, but we would run out. But the other one was actually a little bit weirder. It's this routing heat death of the universe, or the internet, that because the routing system was unconstrained and that routes went everywhere, all over the world, every time you put a new car on the road, it appears on every road, that we'd die a routing death. Because the number of routes in every single router would go from 10,000 to 100,000 to 100 million to, oh my God, it's all exploded. So we've been looking at this. How fast does the routing system grow? Because if it grows faster than Moore's law, we need more silicon, and that's more cost. If it grows lower than Moore's law, it's growing, but our engines, our silicon, is accommodating this. So that number is a very, very important number. For a while, that crazy days of the growth of the internet, it really was exponential. It was doubling every 18 months or so, and Moore's law doubles every 18 months. So it was certainly cause for concern. That's why we started looking. But the internet's getting a bit old, a bit aged in the tooth, and certainly it's not growing at that rate anymore. These days we see about 50,000 new routes a year, and have done for the last 4 or 5 years. What that means, oddly enough, is that we're growing far slower than silicon, and that the cost of routing is actually coming down per route, and that things are going fine. The sort of ancillary question is, if we've run out of V4 addresses, why is the routing system going at all? There's no new addresses to fuel it. Well, what we're seeing in this afterlife of V4 is that the average announcement size is getting smaller. We're actually seeing, with particularly widespread use of carrier-grade NATs and similar, that what's going on is more and more folk are clustering behind a relatively small announcement and using address translation technologies to map themselves over that gap. So how fast is the routing system growing? 50,000 entries a year? Nothing too much to worry about. What does it really mean? There's an awful lot of NAT out there, and that's absorbing this underlying growth, which instead of 50,000 entries a year, the underlying growth, we believe, is up to 2 billion devices are being crammed into that new routing system. So each little incremental growth in routing actually is a large incremental growth in end users. I think cost is the real concern. We can make systems arbitrarily big as long as you're prepared to buy them. And I suppose the internet will not run on 20-year-old equipment. Sorry, it just will not. You need newer equipment than that. But the cost of that equipment then and the cost now, much the same. Moore's law to the rescue. Is routing getting more expensive? No. Is there an issue with the size of things? Well, the big thing that we crossed over was the 512,000 limit, but that was 12 months ago. If your equipment was going to bust, it busted a year ago. If it's still running today, pat yourself on the back, you're over it. The next big time to worry is at about 1 million entries, but that's some time off yet. 50,000 entries a year is a long, long time. If we're still running V4 in 5 years' time, let's all get concerned, not about the size of the routing table, but about the fact we're running V4 in 5 years' time from now. That'll be the weird thing.